Hello everyone, this is Charlotte, and this is a podcast called Chatting in Cars. It's where I discuss at length random topics whilst driving and shouting at people in the road. I'm currently dodging my neighbours because I'm an introvert and they're people basically. There's a disclaimer at the start of this podcast where I talk about sensitive topics being bad, okay? And if you don't want to watch or listen to it, you don't have to, okay? I do swear excessively. I enjoy it. I'm not going to give it up. So, in terms of Lent things to give up, still doesn't happen. Not that I'm Catholic. But, anyway, if you don't want to hear me swearing or talking about sensitive topics, and I do cross over my sensitive topics because I never stick to one fucking thing at a time, I suggest you change the channel now. The topic for today is detachment, practicing detachment. It is a Monday morning. I've got 4 more weeks worth of work before I don't get paid for the holidays, as far as I know. So my reality right now is getting through... Oh my god, move. It's an arsehole. It's getting through the work week without getting incredibly stressed out and waiting for that end of term situation. Sorry, I'm just dodging buses and Hiluxes at this point. Fucking idiots. Anyway, so giant cars, can't drive them. I know what I'll do. I'll take them to small, narrow places. Idiots. Practicing detachment is important because you're never going to get, or most times, you won't get what you absolutely want. And if you get too hooked into an idea, you're just setting yourself up for a fall, really, aren't you? I find it's important to not get that attached anymore. There's many things I get too attached to, and I have to really step back and be mindful of what I'm getting attached to and why. What is the underlying motive for getting attached to this thing? I know I give the same fucking examples over and over again. I mean, for example, just to be annoying, my ex-boyfriend, when I entered that arrangement, I got really attached to the idea that this could be a long-term thing. I ignored all the red flags, and by the end of it there were 72 of them, because I had to sit down and write down, because he just kept me in a constant state of confusion. So I had to sit down and go, why am I not happy here? And it turns out there are 72 of them, and I missed them all. Actually no, I registered about 3 of them and went, oh that's okay, he's just, he's got issues. And I kept going, which was stupid. Because I was ultimately too attached to this idea of making it work, and clearly it was never gonna fucking work, right? This guy's a fucking crazy fucker. If you listen to the other podcast, you'll know what kind of a crazy fucker he is. Why is it we've always got like a weird crazy ex? What is that? I mean, are they that crazy? I mean, I actually have a list of reasons why he's fucking crazy at this point, but I hope I'm someone who's crazy ex. At least make me a little bit more interesting, right? Crazy ex. I am a little bit crazy though. I do have mental issues. But anyway, we get attached to this idea that we want it to work and we stick with it maybe. If you're as committal as I am, it's crazy. Because you get yourself into these situations that just aren't going to work, but you're too stubborn to let go because if you try a little bit harder, right, it'll be okay. Or if you spoil this person a little bit more, if you show them a little bit more affection, it will be okay because, all they need is just that little bit extra. And it's bullshit. Some things are shit regardless of whether you cover it in glitter and spandex or whatever. It's gonna be shit. The ingredients were shit. We were making shit pies with shit. And I wanted it to be a fucking souffle. I don't know why I did that. So we want it to be something it's not. And it's clearly not. That's helping me learn how to practice detachment at this point. I get so hooked into the idea of what things could be, and I put people on pedestals. And it's a nightmare because ultimately they're feet of clay and they fall. Or in this case, he is a bag of shit and he falls. I mean, I really wanted that to work, but oh well. So, towards the end of the relationship, or what I thought was a relationship was actually more of a situationship because he never committed, I started detaching. And I know it came across at the start of a relationship like I was love bombing, but I'm that kind of person. I'm cuddly, feely, touchy. I want everything to work and I want everything to be happy, so I people please my way into these fucking situations and I just want them to be happy all the time. When he started reacting in a horrible way, pushing me away, being nasty, comments, probably cheating on me, considering I kept finding hair clips and stick-on rhinestones around the fucking apartment that weren't mine. He went absolutely out of his way to sabotage that fucking thing. I don't know why he bothered starting it in the first place. I think honestly he wanted a fuck buddy, but he just didn't have the balls to tell me. And that was a good thing, so why let it go, right? Stoking his ego. But when it comes across as love bombing at the start, but when he started reacting in a horrible way, I started pulling back a bit. And every time we got back together, I would pull back a bit more. It's like, I'm here, but I'm like really questioning shit now. It's like, I really started detaching at that point, because I know the image of what I had in my head of what he was, because I put him on a pedestal, my bad, right? We make saints out of sinners, right? I put him on this pedestal, and I want him to be this fabulous guy that I thought he was in my head. But the reality of the situation is he was a piece of shit. And his practices and his behaviours showed me just how much of a piece of shit he was. So I really had to practice detachment. I had to look at the whole situation objectively, look at what he was doing. Is it good for me that I stay with this person? Even though I want this fairy tale to work, and the fairy tale was only mine, it was a one-sided relationship. There's no way he was going to help the situation. If he was a romantic, he's a tragic romantic. He wants the pain and the suffering because it seems to add value to it. I wanted the fairy, fluffy niceness because I want the happy ending. I mean, we all want a happy ending, right? But, he was an asshole. He went actively out of his way to destroy that. And the people in the social group we were hanging around with could see what kind of a person I was. And like, why... I couldn't understand myself why he was reacting this way. It's like, I knew I was doing all the right things to promote affection and intimacy in a relationship. The most generic things, really. But for some reason, he was pushing back and he just didn't want any of it. I'm sitting there going, why are you dating me then? If you don't like this shit, what is your problem? And he had emotionally detached. He was emotionally unavailable. And for some reason, he was trying to, what I feel, build trauma bonding. And, like the scarcity principle. The scarcity principle is where you make yourself essentially scarce so that there's a higher demand for it, right? If you're unobtainable, people are going to want more of you. But at the same time, you don't completely cut yourself off emotionally from people, but that's just pushing them away. It doesn't make sense. Your time is valuable, seemingly, but at the same time, if you're a good person and you're kind to people, but your time is valuable, so you have to be, measured with it. That's how it works to the positive effect. If you're an asshole and you do the scarcity principle, it's just essentially pushing people away whilst being an asshole. It doesn't promote people wanting to come near you. And I don't think he understood that. It's like, he's just an asshole. But I detached. I completely detached. And by the end of it, I was like, when we got evicted and he didn't tell me that we were getting evicted, I was more interested in getting a new apartment than I was reconciling with him in any way. I slept on the floor of the spare room because I didn't want to be in his bed. He slept on the couch. I don't give a fuck where he slept. And he spent most of the time in the piss, to be honest. I don't give a fuck. He's an alcoholic. I swear he's an alcoholic. Anyway, that's his problem. Not my business anymore. That's part of it as well. It's like, you've got to recognize, it's like, this is not my business. Now, he was one for a mission, like a mission a lot. Things in the relationship that should have been important to me, that he should have known would have affected me on an emotional scale, he just kept to himself. Like him getting his ex-girlfriend drunk while we were dating and bringing her home. That's fine. Why would I be bothered by that? Your ex-girlfriend, who you can't seem to let go, and getting her shit-faced and bringing her home. While I wasn't living with him, of course, and she stayed overnight and all this business. And I'm sitting there going, well, now, why would I be offended by that? I wonder. I can't think, right? But he didn't tell me. He just admitted it. And then gradually, as we were sitting together in pubs, having drinks and things, he'd get, loose lips, right? So gradually the story came out over a series of sittings. And it just made the situation worse, because I'm sitting there thinking, why don't you just tell me in the first place for the start? And second of all, is this the kind of person you are? And it contributed to destroying the whole fucking thing, because I couldn't trust him. Every time I tried to trust him, he would find a way for me not to trust him. So I gradually detached. I detached from this outcome where I wanted him to be my guy, my potentially future husband. And I'm just like, this guy's a piece of shit. I can't do this. And it was the only thing really that kept me there at the time was this idea that I need to make this work. But then I need to recognize, why did I want it to work? I mean, is this some kind of extension of my failings? Maybe I'm afraid that if I don't make this work, it will sort of, my ex-husband, my marriage didn't work with my ex-husband, right? Again, do I blame myself for that? If I don't make this relationship work, does it reflect on my abilities again? It's an ego battle as well. To be stubborn and arrogant enough, and in my own right, I admit to this, to be arrogant and stubborn enough to say this has to work. Given that the ingredients in this pie is complete shit, no one's going to want to eat it, These are weird metaphors. Pies, don't make poo pies, come on. But I was so stubborn and arrogant in that I wanted it to work. It had to work because, of course, it's me, right? Detachment helps you put aside your ego and look at things objectively. You need to look at the ingredients that you're using. Logically, you need to, and the hardest part is putting your emotions aside. That's got to be the hardest part. You got to, put all your love and your anger, all these strong feeling emotions that usually direct my actions. Because I lead with the heart. I shouldn't, but I do. It gets you in all kinds of trouble. I really had to bring that shit in. Because I'm a romantic and I love this die for the person you love kind of shit. Not in a horrible way, but live and breathe for them, right? When I'm in a relationship, I'm all in. But I really had to pull back and look at this logically and say, look, I might have feelings for him, but at the same time, he's treating me like shit. And I've got to detach and look at this and see what is actually going to happen as an outcome from this if I keep doing this. And to be honest, it came to the point where I'm like, I can't keep going with this, so I have to detach and go. And I have to make a head over heart decision and just leave. Because he's not good for me. He's poisoning me. He's abusing me. I can't keep doing this. And it sounds like quitting, and I hated that. Again, that was me fighting my own ego. It's like, oh, you're not a quitter. You keep going, right? You're stubborn. But the reality is the situation, sometimes you have to quit. You are allowed to quit. If this is a toxic situation when this person is hurting you more than harming you, I mean, the way he shagged was violent. He took his anger out on me. It was not good for me. Sexually, he was not good for me. Emotionally, he was fucking me around with mind games and manipulation. And he was two different people in public compared to what he was at home. So all his friends think he's, God's gift to humanity. As soon as he gets home, he's a piece of shit. He's a lot like my ex-husband, actually. So they aren't seeing what I'm seeing or on the receiving end of what I was receiving. And in the end, I just had to take an objective stance and say, this isn't good for me, I'm not doing this, and this is not going to be my fucking future. And I'm leaving, essentially. I think, honestly, the eviction thing and his pettiness associated with that was the best thing that could have happened. Because it showed me what kind of a person he is. In times of struggle, when things are important and we have to talk about stuff, big things like getting evicted and potentially being fucking homeless, and he took the petty route, yeah, no, that was a big thing. That was the big draw. It's like, no, this person is not someone I need in my life. I can't do this. I'm not tolerating this shit. And I drew the line and I left. Bearing in mind I got a better apartment than him and I live alone, so I don't have to put up with anyone's shit. I figured out where he moved to, actually, because what he had done is moved in with one of his friends. Again, he'd leached off someone else. Can't stand on his own 2 feet, doesn't want to. But he had moved into a set of flats that's next door to, if not attached to, my gym, which is messed up in itself. And then he signed up to the same gym as me, like 3 months or so after we had moved, or the date of eviction was. So he doesn't practice detachment. It's like, you need to fuck off. And I only found this out because the girl at the front desk, who's quite nice to me, we get along all right because she lifts and I lift. She pointed out that he said he knew me and he was looking for my address. And I'm like, this guy's fucking psychotic. The only way that I knew he was anywhere near in that area was because he could not detach. And essentially he's trying to fucking stalk me, which is creepy. Why would you need to know where I live? I blocked him on every other front. Every front. Facebook, Messenger, calls, everything. I don't even have a WhatsApp. You know, all this kind of crap. But this guy just could not fucking let go. And that's codependence. I don't know if it's some kind of an insult that I rebuffed him. I don't know. But I looked at what he was doing. I'm going, this is toxic as fuck. I don't want this. This is not my future. I don't have to tolerate this shit. I'm not doing it. I don't have to subject myself to this. Not when I have a choice now. Not when I'm aware that it's going on and I don't like it. And it's a bit different when I was a kid and I had to take the abuse of my parents because, you know, you're a kid and what are you going to do? Run away from home with a knapsack? Do you think that's really a reality? That the cops won't drag you the fuck back? They'll find you. They'll take you back to your abusers. It's bullshit. So I had no choice but to take it as a kid up until I was about 18, 19. 19 I moved out with my ex-husband, who is now my ex-husband, I should say. But I took a lot of shit in that time period, and now as an adult I have a choice, and I'm saying, fuck no. I don't have to do that. I don't have to take that shit. I mean, I moved from living with parental abusers to living with an ex-husband abuser, so, you know, I've had a double dose of abusers. I'm not willing to give up my freedom for the sake of shitty circumstances anymore, knowing that I can stand on my own 2 feet. So at that point we need to start detaching from these assholes, right? It also helps you regulate, you know, goal setting and things like that. It's like, what can I achieve? What is possible? Things like that. You don't want to get stuck in a particular mindset. It also helps your fluidity when you're coming to goal setting and things like that. It's not just all tragic circumstances and not being able to attach to people. I would love the idea of being able to attach to someone, but at the same time, I'm more conscious in my decisions. I'm more discerning when it comes to picking and choosing people. I'm looking at a guy right now. I mean, it's the same yoga guy. I'm sorry. I know I'm going to bore the shit out of you with that one. It's the yoga guy that put the stupid pictures up on his Facebook. And I'm looking at him and I'm going, look, he's a nice guy. In person, he's a nice guy, right? He's got a similar interest to me. He does lifting, he does yoga, he's into spiritualism and stuff like that. And I'm going, okay, so we got some things in common. It seems. He's got a similar family setup to me. He's the eldest of 4. I'm the third born of 4. Similar setup. He's the guy, he's got 3 sisters. I've got 2 sisters and a brother. It's all very familiar, lots of synchronicities. And I'm sitting there going, all right, so maybe this could be a guy that I could get along with. Obviously he's got sisters, so he knows what girls are like. He's got that background, so maybe he's a bit more, you know, softer towards women compared to the last asshole who has only brothers and he's a piece of shit. Very misogynistic, I found. I don't know what that is, but I don't think his brothers would be like that. I don't know. But at the same time, I'm looking at him going, you did those pictures, which are just detracting from any kind of me wanting to think about you in a long-term commitment, because it's like, I don't know what kind of a person. The message you're putting out with those pictures is that you're a bit hoary, to be honest, just slutting around. And I'm sitting there going, I don't find that attractive. I don't find it long-term. It's not something I would invest in. Besides the fact that he's now grown a beard, it seems, that now he looks the spitting image of my ex-boyfriend, so I'm like, okay, that's a deterrent as well. But it could just be the area. It's full of hipsters, and I'm like, oh, dude, please don't try and be like him. He's a wanker. You know, it's just I'm getting through the red flags. I know he's got a kid, which is not really a red flag so much, but it does add an element of complication to the scenario. Because I didn't want kids, but at the same time, I don't mind if they have kids as long as I don't have to look after them. And that sounds a bit cold, but I'm like, dude, I'm a teacher. I don't want to take my shit home with me. It's a stressful enough job. And now you're, you know, expecting me to raise your kid, but it's more than, it would be an interesting complexity to the relationship. I was like, I don't want to have to take on parental roles when I'm not getting paid. Especially when opted out. You know, it's something that I'm going to have to compromise on, I think, if we did go out. But I'm becoming more discerning with these things. I mean, before I just sort of jumped in emotionally. Like with the ex-boyfriend guy, it was the whole candle thing. I had to really detach from that fucking candle thing. Besides the fact that he sort of snubbed the whole situation out anyway, right? And when I'm talking about the candle thing, I'm talking about, you know, like holding the candle for a guy. Because he had shown me 15 years ago what kind of a guy he was. Not really. He'd shown me a fabricated version of what he was. This is the mask he wears to get laid, essentially. It's the, you know, the Hawaiian shirt of the fuckboy. You know, the beer drinking shirt. We wear it out at special occasions and hopefully get laid, you know. He's essentially wanting to be Quagmire, if you've ever watched Family Guy. Thinks he's fucking Quagmire, he ain't got the skills. So, sorry, I'm just trying to get past what looks like, oh, hello, sodium silicate. Well, go then. Yeah. Sorry, I'm looking at some idiot. Non-hazardous. Yeah, because there's sodium. And it's silicate. Anyway, trying to get past some idiot with a tanker. That's salt silicate. That'd be sand. Sand salt. Sorry, weird chemistry lesson. But, you know, I'm trying to be more discerning these days. I emotionally got attached to that candle guy because he had presented this image of what he was. And the reality of actually living with him and dating him completely cancelled it out. So I had to detach from that. I've got to be more discerning. But it's also like life goals as well. It's like you're not always going to get what you want. I mean, there's that song, you can't always get what you want, obviously. Was it Rolling Stones? Sometimes you get what you need. It's like in a time what we want and what we need can be very confusing. Because we think we want something, but reality is you don't. Because when you actually get it, you're like, fuck this is a bit shit. I did not anticipate that it would be this shit. When I was married, when I was at the start of my marriage, I wanted to get married. When I got married, I did enjoy the practice of it. I like the whole setup, and I would definitely get married again because I do believe in it. I still love it. I'm not jaded in any way with the practice. You know, some people get divorced, they're like, I'm never fucking doing that again. Like, I think what you're doing is having a problem with the person you were attached to and associating it with the practice. It's like, no, there's nothing wrong with marriage. Choosing shit people to be married to can cause a problem. I chose a shit one because I was young and dumb, essentially. And I got hooked in early. And he customized me to be, you know, what he wanted me to be, which inevitably wasn't what he wanted me to be anyway because he left me for someone else. But, you know, fuck him, right? I think there was a lot of insecurities on his part there. But, you know, you're not always sure of what you want until you actually live it. So you've got to detach a bit from these big plans that you have, these grandiose plans where everything's going to work. And I mean, in theory, it's only, you know, by chance that things actually do work out. Like chaos theory, if you want to go into it. We all have these big plans. The SAS don't make solid plans. They make working document plans, essentially. They'll have a general idea, they'll have a directive and an objective, and everything changes once you get in the field because you don't know what you're going to be up against. So you have to be able to be fluid and to adapt yourself to the circumstances, and in some way you have to do practice detachment. So everything's going to go to plan. In fact, most things in life never do go to plan. Shit happens, essentially, doesn't it? So you got to roll with the punches. Oh my god, it's just like a series of cliches. Is it cliches? What is it? There is a word for it. It's like a series of them. So, what can we do to practice detachment? I don't want you getting stressed out in life. That's the thing. When shit doesn't go right. I mean, there's some people that are OCD. I've got mild OCD. I've also got autism where I have to have routine. I have to know that shit's going to work properly. And I will go out of my way to sort of make sure that, you know, the parameters of situation are within certain, you know, confines so that it will work, or at least move towards working, which has helped me in a large degree. But at the same time, I have to practice detachment and saying, this could happen. If it does happen, it's going to be okay, because of course we're going to have backup plans. We're going to be able to adapt on the spot. We've done this a million times, if not. And it's going to be okay. Don't get upset when shit doesn't work. We will find another way around it. That's an active part of my job as well, as a teacher. It's like, we might have lesson plans. How many of us actually fucking stick to those lesson plans? It's like, I got a general idea of what I want us to do. and then someone, comes in, or the kids are feral, or the content doesn't work, or, it's always adapting. Always adapting. The thing is not to get hooked on an outcome. Detachment helps with that. Because you're not always going to get what you weigh. I mean, can you imagine if everybody got what they wanted, like all the time? It wouldn't work. Because what someone wants is going to conflict with what another person wants. It just wouldn't work. You could argue that you need to compromise, but at the same time, who's going to compromise? There's egos. There's all kinds of horrible things going on there. And sometimes it's just reality you got to deal with, where, oh shit, this stuff just didn't work out how we expected, so fuck it, we're just going to have to roll with it. One of my favorite memes at one point was someone losing their shit in the newsroom, and he said, fuck it, we're going to do it live. I'm going, that is life, isn't it? It feels, the emphasis he put into the swear words just did it for me. I pissed myself. He got so frustrated because people weren't doing their job, or something had gone wrong in the office or something like that, and he was on the screen, or like seconds till the camera rolled, and he just lost his shit, and he said, fuck it, we're doing it live. I'm going, yes, that is adulting. That sounds a hell of a lot like adulting. It's like, you can make as many plans as you fucking want. It ain't gonna happen. You're gonna fuck it and do it live. It's like, we're gonna have to wing it, I laugh my ass off. I'm sitting there going, I can feel what you're getting at, dude. I was surprised at his age that he reacted that way. It was like, how could you not assume at that age that shit was going to go tits up anyway? That's my favourite. One of my favourite memes. Fuck it. I lose it. I feel it. Detachment's great though. I mean, it's horrible in that you're worried that you're not going to be able to become attached. If you detach from everything, there is a danger that you just don't bother getting attached to anything. That bit makes me feel a bit sad, I think, weirdly. Because I'm like, well, how do you find true love and all that kind of thing? And you get attached to people and you want to start relationships and stuff if you're constantly practicing detachment. I mean, maybe I've got my definitions wrong for detachment in regards to that, relating to that. But in terms of, assuming things will work and assuming things have to go a particular way, practicing detachment can be useful. It also helps you relax your brain, the anxiety and overthinking. I find the amount of times I've just overthought scenarios and it didn't turn out how I thought it would overthought anyway. I'm afraid I'm a bit of a Virgoan Taurus there. I overthink shit to death. High standards. And then you're trying to overthink and overcompensate for every scenario that could go wrong, and then none of it happens anyway, and you just stress yourself out. So it's like, it's crazy. You can't overdo things like that. It doesn't work. You just make yourself sick. Why would you want to do that to yourself? Come on. We're all stressed up to the eyeballs anyway. I mean, I live in Australia, and the main thing is, she'll be right. I'm British living in Australia, so my British side of my brain goes, no, she fucking won't be right, actually. So I have a lot of trouble detaching the way that they do culturally. Ooh, is that a snake? In the road, it's a dead snake. Okay, yeah. So that shit happens. We're just going to detach from that. There is a big cultural thing in Australia about she'll be right. It's like, shit's going to go wrong, all right, so it goes wrong. We're going to find a way around it, I hope, or generally ignore it. I'm hoping it's not the generally ignore it thing. I know with British culture, things tend to be more confined, reserved. It's like we like plans. We like to prep. We're straightforward, get things done sort of things. Like very British. And they say stiff upper lip. I've yet to figure out what the fuck that means, but, Oh, look, a moron. But, it's a conflicting ideology. I was raised English but in Australia, so I've got to have a foot in both sides of it, right? Otherwise you lose your mind. So when I'm feeling stressed out and I'm overthinking things with my British brain, maybe I need to just relax and use my Australian brain and go, oh, it'll be all right. But my British brain is sitting there arguing the Australian brain, saying, you're just being half-assed. Stop it. It's not going to be all right. Panic. But in a very confined way. A very quiet, reserved way. Everybody panic. internally. Ducks with their feet kicking underwater. I don't know. It's interesting though. It bugs the shit out of me, these fuckers though. She'll be right. And it's the only mindset I've got. She'll be right. You fucking half-assed. And no, it won't. It won't be right. Nobody's prepped. Nobody's got the resources. Jesus. You're just winging it. I hate it. Could be my anxiety disorder. I don't know. Nobody's prepared for this. And someone's going to turn to me and expect me to bail them out. I swear to God, this is group projects all over again. It's like, because you know I'm the only one that fucking preps. I hate this shit. You're expected to bail out. Yeah. I don't know. Practice detachment. Or, irresponsibility. One of them. She'll be right. She won't be right. COVID pandemic. She'll be right. Everyone's hocking up on every show. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, how can I help you for today? What can I give you? Because I'm nearly at work now. If you need to practice detachment, absolutely go for it, because it's one of the best things you can do. I don't want you stressing out, trying to deal with the situation. The best thing you can do is write something down, I find. When I'm faced with a horrible situation, and I do overthink things in my head because I ruminate, I overthink, I run things over in my head, and I don't have linear thinking, I have network thinking, so I'll rerun over the fucking thing over and over again, trying to connect it to the other points in my head. I know that because it does my head in. Some people can think just logically and linearly, and it's like boom, 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 this makes sense, I'm doing this. I'm sitting there going, no, I have to consider everything. Everything. It's a network way of thinking. Blessing and a curse. Lots of people have this, so I assume, right? Write it down. If you can see it visually, maybe it will help you clarify what's going on, because I had to, like when I was with my ex-boyfriend and I had to write down his red flags because he was just confusing the fuck out of me. It helped me detach from him and that scenario. I had to look at the evils of this. Pros and cons lists as well, things like that are always useful. What happens if I do this? Some kind of outcome, consequence, flow chart might help you as well. I don't know. What happens if I do this, then this will happen. Some people are just that way inclined. Some people can figure it out in their head. I have trouble because I overthink things. Detaching is healthy in that it can distance you from problems and overthinking. It is unhealthy in that it can, it can create some kind of barrier between people as well, emotionally. You don't want to emotionally detach too much because you just become cold and unfeeling, right? So you've got to find a mid-ground as well, which is tricky. What else can I say? Sorry, I'm a million miles a minute right now. I don't want to go teach science. I'm going to detach the fuck from that as well, because I know the kids are going to be feral because it's the last couple of weeks of schools, and given the Thursday and Friday I just had, I know they're going to be assholes. And it's not their fault, they're just ready to go, really. They're coming from rough backgrounds, so I know they've got excuses to present like this, but at the same time I'm like, dude, can't we just give them an early holiday? So I'm going to detach from that. I'm going to detach from the experience. I'm just going to autopilot the day, because I know I've got errands to work after, run after work. So to save my sanity, I will detach from that, which is perfectly legit. You are allowed to do that. If you know that something's going to stress you out, detach from it. Sometimes I dissociate with things as well. I just space out. It's great fun. Daydream about the places I'd rather other be, Not a problem, not a bad thing. Don't feel bad for that. You get shit for not having your head in the game, but some days to save my sanity, I just gotta zone the fuck out, man. Because the noise and the screaming and the demands are insane in a classroom. And whilst we get, these asshole celebrities turning up and saying, we really gotta support teachers, they have no concept of what the reality of teaching practice actually is. They see the very polished version of what it is, and usually from very well-funded schools where kids are kicked out if they're assholes. I'm in the fucking roots level of this shit, where the kids that are assholes are kept on site and just, shuffled off to a behaviour centre, which is kind of like a child prison. Gotta love poppy cycle areas. So, yeah, don't even get me started on that. It's a whole different podcast. So I want you to have a great day. Take it easy today. Try and find a way to relax. There's nothing wrong with detaching. There's nothing wrong with dissociating. It's Monday. We've got 5 days to get through. All right, take it easy, and I'll see you hopefully tomorrow.